Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the time that you are watching this video. First of all, I would like to thank you for allocating a time in watching this video or recorded discussion. With that, for our week number 2, the topic it's all about the academic language used from various disciplines and text structure. For our objectives, here are the objectives, the first and the second ones, and then the third one. Okay, let us first define what is academic language. When we say academic language, it is the language that we use in school. It is used by students and the teachers. Academic language is formal and professional in nature, meaning it is free from any types of colloquialisms, just like the jargons, slang words, shortened words, and even abbreviations. Academic language is also not just used by students and teachers in schools, but also by different professionals in different fields. Just like, for example, the aside from the teachers, also the doctors, the lawyers, the entrepreneurs, and even other professionals. That is the academic language. Here are some examples of this type of language. The first one is the discipline-specific vocabulary, or the words that exist only in a specific discipline, field, or specialization. You also have the grammar and punctuation. Remember that academic language should be free from grammatical and punctuational errors, as well as the applications of rhetorical conventions and devices. If we have academic language, we also have the social language. When we say social language, it is the language that we use in our day-to-day or daily lives. Basically, when we are having a conversation or communication with the non-professionals. We use this language when we are talking to our family, friends, and even in socializing with random people. Social language is informal and casual in nature since we can use different types of colloquialisms just like jargons, slang words, shortened words, and abbreviations. Here are the other differences of the social language and academic language. In social language, we use this in everyday interactions, while in academic language, we use these in different academic texts and academic setting, just like in the textbooks, in research papers, and conferences. In social language, we use this in our everyday conversation. While in academic, it is used in school or work. And the rest of the differences were already discussed a while ago, but let's discuss the ones that were not discussed a while ago. In social language, we can repeat words or expressions, or even phrases. In academic language, we should have a variation in everything, especially on the words and the information that we will use or include in our language. And then in social language, we can use phrases or group of words with incomplete thought. While in academic language, everything should be expressed in sentences or complete thought. Here are the other characteristics of academic language. The first one, it is formal, or again from colloquialisms. And then objective, which means that we should just be neutral about the topic. And then impersonal, or we should not include any other personal elements, just like our personal opinions, personal stories, and personal perspective about the topic. Let us now proceed to the main part of the week number 2 lesson. The main part is about the text structure. When we say text structure, it is the structure of the flow of the information. Basically, It dictates about how do we present the set or pieces of information in a text. Now, text structure totally depends on the topic. Just like say, for example, our topic is about comparing the government system of the Philippines and the America. Therefore, we will use compare and contrast because we aim to differentiate and know the similarities between two or more topics. And then if we want to have like a written tutorial, then we can do chronological process or sequence. Let's discuss or more like a recapitulation about the common text structures since these were already discussed during your reading and writing class last semester. The first one is the narrative. So when we say narrative, we are narrating an event or story. Obviously, it contains narrative elements just like characters, setting, conflict, point of view, and plot. Narrative text structure follows a pyramid-like structure, just like what you can see here. This pyramid-like structure symbolizes or represents the five main elements of plot. Again, we have five main elements of plot. The first one is the exposition or the time that the characters, settings, and the main events are being introduced. It follows by the rising action or the time that the problem or the conflict starts to develop. And then the climax or the most exciting part of the story. Then falling action or the time that the problem is being solved gradually. And then for the resolution, it is the ending of the story or event. Transitions in signal words in narrative are descriptive language. When we say descriptive language, these include adjectives or the words that describe noun and pronoun, adverb or words that describe verb, adjective, and another adverb. However, different figurative languages, just like similes and metaphors, are discouraged since we are more focused on a academic writing. For the second one, we have the chronological process or sequence. Chronological process or sequence, it is like a step-by-step procedure in presenting the information of a text. In other words, there should be a proper order or sequence in presenting each piece of information. We usually use this in our written tutorials, and most importantly or most notably in cookbooks or in recipe books. In this text structure, we use different transitional devices just like first, second, third, later, next, and many more. Next one, we have the cause and effect. So for cause and effect, from the words themselves, we provide the reasons or explanations why something happens or happened. In this text structure, we only have one effect, and we provide multiple reasons or causes. The effect is specifically in the thesis statement or in the topic sentence. Thesis statement or topic sentence, again, is located in the last sentence of the introduction. Now, for the cause, we provide one paragraph each. For paragraph number one in body, we provide the cause number one together with explanations, evidences, and other supporting details. And then another paragraph for cause number two and cause number three, and so forth. The fourth text structure is problem and solution. In problem and solution, we give solutions to different problems or problem presented in the text. Just like for example, when we want to give suggestions on how to solve the poverty problem in the Philippines. In this text structure, if there is only one problem, then the problem is in the thesis statement or topic sentence. And for the solutions, Again, one paragraph for each solution, together with explanations, evidences, and other supporting details. However, if there are two or more problems, then it's like one paragraph for each problem, together with the solutions, explanations, evidences, and other supporting details. Next one is the compare and contrast. In compare and contrast, we give the similarities and differences between two or more topics. In writing this text structure, we should state in the thesis statement that there are similarities and differences between the topic 1 and the topic 2. And then, in the body, in the first paragraph of the body, we provide the similarities between the topic number 1 and the topic number 2. For the paragraph number 2 in body, we now provide the differences or how different is the topic 1 from the topic number 2. And for body paragraph number 3, we provide the differences of topic 2 from the topic 1, or how different is the topic 2 from the topic number 1. And we also use different conjunctions. And last but not the least, and probably the most simple or the simplest out of the text structures, we have the definition or description. In definition or description, we either, from the word itself, define the topic or describe it through listing characteristics, features, attributes, and examples. And we use these words just like, for example, characteristics, for instance, such as including and to illustrate. Let's proceed to the importance of text structure. First importance is to organize information and details they are learning in their minds while reading. It means that through text structure, the readers can understand and comprehend properly the text that they are reading. Second one, to make connections between the details being presented in a text. So in other words, through text structure, we can present the ideas smoothly. And then another one, we have the summarize the important details shared in a text. Through text structure, we can present just the important information to the readers. And here is the reference that we have used for this subject, or for this topic rather. If you have any questions, clarifications, or concerns, just raise it to me and I will answer it through private message, or you may send your questions, queries, clarifications, or concerns to your class mayor so that he or she will send all of your questions in just one message. With that, once again, thank you so much for your time in listening in my recorded class or recorded discussion. Thank you so much and have a great day. God bless you all.